friends, welcome back to my channel. Today I have a book review to share with you. That book comes from J.D. Netto. It's the Henderbell, The Shadow of St. Nicholas. If you recall, I purchased the Beacon book box that they did for Christmas that had this book featured in it, and I managed to sit down right after Christmas, and I was yearning to read this book. So now that I have read it, I have a plethora of thoughts to share with you. So let's go ahead and get started. Essentially, the premise of the whole book focuses on two siblings. It's got an older brother named Enzo, and he has a younger sister named Ava. And essentially, their home life isn't super great. Their dad appears to be a drunk, and it seems like their parents are headed for divorce. And so, without telling us why, Enzo and Ava haven't seen their grandparents in a number of years, and they get sent to Dorchester, Massachusetts, which was kind of cool. I live in Massachusetts, not that far from Dorchester, and they are shipped off to see their grandparents for Christmas. And then it's the night of Christmas Eve, I believe, and all of a sudden a couple of weird incidents happen, and then the grandparents go missing. And Enzo and Ava walk over to this tree that sucked their grandparents up, and they find themselves in this entire alternate universe, this magical place, kind of like Narnia, but nothing like Narnia. So that's the general premise, and basically Enzo and Ava find out that they're royalty in this alternate world, and their grandparents have been stolen, and they have to save them, otherwise the king and queen won't live, and Christmas won't come. And I don't know if you can tell by my tone of voice, but this book was bad. It was really bad. I don't know how I didn't abandon this book. Let me tell you, I was like 20 pages in, and I found myself being like, oh, I don't think I'm gonna like this book. But for some reason, I kept reading in hopes that it would get better. But part of what bothered me from the get-go were the really not well-developed use of similes in the story. Like, let me give you an example. The picture was like a punch in my stomach. Oh, okay. The living room suddenly felt like a haunted house. Wow, you don't say. Like, already I felt like being hit with those every other page. It was just like, oh, this is not good development of a story, and this is not how you create feeling and imagery and the sense of being consumed into this world. Like, it just felt so basic and bland. But for some reason I kept reading because I was like, it's gonna get better, but it just didn't. Like, the other problem that I had was the plot development. It would be like, on one page we have a problem, and 2 pages later, oh, that problem is solved. Or, you know, for example, they would travel from these certain places, but they wouldn't be very clear about how they're getting there, / they would quickly resolve things. Like, you know, there would be this moment where Enzo and Ava are essentially like being cornered by the villain, and there'd be no way out of this cave, and then suddenly they'd be like, oh, look, there's this opening in the cave, and oh, look, we can leave, and the villains can't follow us into this cave. And you're like, really? That's how you solved it? And like, the point of view changed in the story, and typically all 4 point of view shifts and different character voices. But the character voice of Ava, the younger sister, who is supposed to be like, I don't know, I feel like she's 6. She's young enough to like have a stuffed animal that she talks to and is like sad when he gets taken from her. She all of a sudden, like, between one chapter and another chapter, becomes this like super philosophical human and says things that the high school students I work with would never even say because they themselves are not at that place to be that insightful. So it just didn't work. There were so many things about this that didn't work. And it's annoying because the premise is really interesting, and I really feel like I was sold something that I was not going to receive in this book. Like, this book really made it seem like it was going to be much more Christmassy, and it's not. Like, it's barely even related to Christmas. It's like a stretch to relate it to Christmas. Like, the whole connection that they have to Christmas is just again, not well developed. So the long and short of it, I will spare you from any more of my complaints. Don't read this book. This book is not good. There are so many other amazing quality authors out there that are doing excellent young adult fantasy. This is not one of them. So this book is leaving my apartment immediately. I am kicking it out, and I don't recommend it to anybody because it's just not good. So that is it for me. I think I'm most bitter about this because you guys know I don't have a ton of free reading time right now, and I squandered it by reading this book. But if you have any redeeming books to tell me about, please share them with me in the comments below. I'll talk to you in my next book review really soon, I hope. Bye.